Osino Resources is a relatively new company. I literally dreamt it up in 2015. It was born out of the success that I had a couple of years before that when we, together with some Canadian colleagues, I acquired a project from Angloval, which no one paid much attention to at the time. We drilled it out. We paid $25 million for it. We drilled it out, advanced it to feasibility stage, and then 2 years later sold it to B2Gold for 200, or just under 200. So it was almost a 10-bagger for those initial investors. And B2Gold then went on and actually built a very, very successful gold mine. It's a true dripping roast. It makes, I think this year it's going to make $200 million of free cash a year. It's literally $1 billion company. And so that became the blueprint for Osino. So basically, being a Namibian citizen, I thought, that was nice, maybe I can do this again. So we, together again with some strong Canadian financiers and geologists and so forth, we put together a land package in Namibia. In the beginning, it was a kind of a consolidation play. We had to do it the hard 9 yards. We had to do the exploration ourselves because there were no other gold projects in Namibia. And so through some high-quality, systematic, holistic sort of exploration with some innovation, etc., we actually made a very significant discovery. It's called Twin Hills. It was done through thick sand and calcrete cover, 20 kilometers from Navachap, which is the biggest gold resource outside of the Wits anywhere in southern Africa. Our official resource at the moment is 2.7 million ounces. It's still growing. I have no doubt in the next year or two it's going to grow to 3.5, 4 million ounces. So it's a major discovery. I looked at some S&P and market intelligence numbers. It's one of 28 major discoveries made in the last 10 years globally. And Osino, really, what we're doing is we growing it, defining it, advancing it, looking to turn it into Namibia's biggest gold project, looking to replicate and better what B2Gold did with the last project that we sold them. Okay, so in summary, obviously we've done this a couple of times before. We know how to raise money, we know how to structure these deals, but we also know technically what's required to de-risk and advance these kind of assets. We now have a quality asset. We're not a dream anymore. We've turned the dream into reality. It's at the pre-feasibility stage, and let me just add that I'm very, very proud. I think it's something very few people achieve, is to go from discovery to pre-feasibility stage in 2.5 years. And I think next year, 2023, this project is going to get built. We've got very strong financial backing, excellent Canadian, North American and UK or European shareholders. The project is still growing, and unfortunately our share price hasn't really reflected all the good work that we're doing, but I have no doubt that will change. Needless to say, sustainability and responsible mining and doing the right thing is core to everything we do, and we're very active on this front. We're currently about $150 million company, about a third owned by the founders and some key shareholders, basically insiders. About another third is owned by the who's who of North American and European mining funds, and the last third is retail. So a very good share structure, and relative to the rest of the gold market, we've actually had a decent share price performance, but obviously on an absolute basis, it hasn't been great because no one's paying attention to gold at the moment, or to gold shares. Just very briefly, so Namibia has got what they call the Damara Belt, or in other parts of Africa it's called the Pan-African. It's a sedimentary belt. It's orogenic. That's our exploration approach. Basically, it means large structures, generally disseminated ore bodies, but generally these things grow. Navachap is the best example. It was built on 1 million ounces. It's produced 2 million ounces in the last 30 years, and it still has 5 million ounces left. And I think our project will be similar. So it's very prospective. The issue here is that it's mostly undercover, very similar to Botswana, and that's why it's only emerging as a mineralizing belt, especially in gold and in copper right now. There's some other companies that are doing very similar things to what we've done in gold in Botswana and in Namibia, so I think you'll hear a lot more about this region in terms of new discoveries. Namibia is a very pleasing place to work. Obviously, I'm impartial to it, being a Namibian myself. What Osino has achieved, I think, is a textbook of what exploration can achieve in terms of, bringing FDI into countries, socioeconomic development, etc. So a great place to be in Namibia, not just to be, but also to operate. So this was the consolidation play. We started off, that's sort of north-central Namibia there. Started off putting a lot of licenses together. We have by far the biggest license position of anyone in Namibia. We're also by far the most active explorer in Namibia. Spent $50 million in the last 3 or 4 years. And down there, close to Navachap, we've made that discovery. We have additional sniffs elsewhere. As the Canadians say, there's a lot of smoke, but the trick is in finding the fire. So that's the region, Namibian, which is that other deposit that brought us into the area, and we consolidated it. We've literally consolidated an entire district. We've made 3 discoveries there so far with very credible intersections. It's a very thick package running between 1 and 1.5 grams, open pittable, about 3 to 4 strip ratio, so very good numbers. We work with the best. We work with the best we can find. In this case, at the moment, the study group is like a podium. And there are others. So we're an exploration company that's very rapidly transitioning into becoming a developer, and I think next year we'll become a builder and operator of mines thereafter. We're at the PEA stage. That's kind of a scoping, that's a name for what is a scoping, that's what the Canadians call a scoping study. Being a Canadian company, of course, we're regulated by the stock exchange. Most people still measure us by the PEA, which we publicized middle of last year, and the PEA showed some very credible numbers. But we've been very active since. We've drilled 100,000 meters. We've spent millions doing studies. We're actually in the final lap of concluding our pre-feasibility study, which will come out at the end of August, which will be a quantum leap from this PEA. So most of these numbers will improve substantially. We're talking about a roughly 150 to 200,000 ounce a year producer, 10, 15-year life of mine, very strong economic returns, and basically lowest quartile cost curve, excellent capital intensity, etc. So it's going to become a very attractive project with probably in the region of about a $300 million US capital cost to build. That's obviously one of the key challenges for a junior like ourselves. It's an open pit project. There's another pit that's been added since. Straightforward geology, straightforward metallurgy, lot of upside still. It's open at depth, open along strike. We've probably, of the 15-kilometer gold system that we've delineated, we've drilled about 6 of it so far. So I think this project will continue to grow substantially. Off-the-shelf standard CIL processing route, so nothing special over there, very simple. And significantly, we are, being in Namibia generally is great, but we are very favorably located in a very infrastructure dense area of the country. Literally, I'm sure a lot of you have been to Namibia. If you drive from Windhoek to Swakopmund, about halfway just before the town of Karabip, literally 3-4 kilometers to your right on the right hand side off the tarred road, that's where it is. The amazing thing is that Anglo, Goldfields, Newmont, Teck, all these big companies have been swarming over this ground for decades, and they didn't find it because it was undercover. So our real claim to fame is that we developed some unique, copied from the Australians really, and adapted some unique exploration techniques which enabled us to find this.